Hey guys, good afternoon. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Service Without Excuses podcast. We have an old friend of mine and guest and mentor to me on today. His name is Bill Yeadon. Bill Yeadon from John Don, is a big distributor here in the cleaning and restoration industry, and also one of the instructors on my favorite subject. But I have a few subjects I really like, but in particular, I love marketing. He teaches the marketing sector at the Strategies for Success course, which I tell every single person I talk to on the planet, especially if you're in this business, you should take the 5-day class when it gets back up, of course. So, Billy, welcome, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great. And I love your studio. That makes me think of a restaurant in like old Italy or something, so it looks very cool.
It is. It's designed to be, I always, there was a lot of red brick when I lived in New York. Things had a lot of red brick behind it, but it has that old warm school feeling. I wanted to put a fireplace, but that wasn't in the cards for back behind here. But I got the lights, and I've got stuff here, and of course the library behind me with different books and things. But Billy, please tell our listeners. Many of them already know you, but if they don't, tell them a little bit about yourself.
All righty. Well. I was like many others in this industry. I started in the cleaning and restoration business. Probably the difference with me is I started in 1975. So needless to say, the things that I did in that first 10 years when I was running that were all the things I probably tell students today, don't do that, right? So we always say that instructors are the people that have messed up so much stuff that they almost had to get out of the business so that they could not go bankrupt. But I'll tell you what, I loved it, but I really loved the part about teaching people, engaging with people, and being a learner myself. There's no better way to learn than to have 20, 30, 40 people in a class. And what my job really is to draw out the information from those 30 people, because, we're all smarter together as a group than we are by an individual. So I've been working for John Don now for since I started with them in 94 as a contractor. And as in 2002, I finally went to work full-time just for John Don. And that's where I've been, and that's where I'll retire from.
You got an amazing story, man. I knew you lived in St. Petersburg for a while. We're just down there.
Yep.
Had to see, the as I say, I'm not a fan of definitely Brady personally. Of course, I don't know him personally, but I am a huge fan of him, and I'm a huge fan of Bill Belichick and the coach and team, theory behind it. The people around you really make you better, and the people you associate around make you better. So, it's not just words to live by. It is something to live by. Why I wanted to have you on today, and I'm thrilled, and again, I appreciate very much you being part of this podcast, is marketing. We're not going to get into present day marketing because that could be a little complicated. And I have John Braun on later on the week that's going to talk a little bit about some new stuff he wants to go over as far as the advertising end of it and that stuff. But marketing to me is a simple process. It's not an easy process, but it's a simple process. When I started New Jersey's Best. Here, I took no money, very little money, I should say, decided to write blog posts with pictures every day, put it on Facebook, put it on Instagram, put whatever it was. And, I think my competitors probably laughed about it and said, oh, look at this guy. He's just putting this stuff out there. He's got nothing to work with. Meanwhile, I did have some funds to work with. I just chose to try and see how people would respond to the social aspects of it. I didn't ever in a million years think that I would build my entire business based on those posts and that information, just putting fresh relative content, pictures, and content that people are easy to read. My vision of marketing personally, and you can tell me your side of it, is how people react to what they see and what they hear. And in the simplest forms possible.
Yeah. I would have to say that as I look at it and I try to study it, and as I've mentioned, I'm not always about the tools such as, should I write a blog? Should I, do SEO? Those are tools, and they're different for everybody in every location. I like to get much deeper into it. One of the things that I always look at marketing is that probably 90 to 95% of all the things that we take through our brain come through our subconscious, right? So when you're talking about this, we always think about the fact that if I say, I've got this truck mount, I've got this, I've got this, I got this, and this is why you should call me. Well, then somebody else that has the same truck mount, same everything else, what's the difference? Right. So it's all the other things. It's how you make people feel. And I think what you're talking about, especially when you're talking about your blogs and the pictures or images that go in there, we know that emotions are what drive decisions in marketing or anything else we do. When you trigger emotions, that's what you're getting. Money is not an emotion, right? And it's the whole, it's the, when you get people, and that's why we talk about putting pictures of cute babies or puppies, everybody looks and says, oh God, another cute baby. But when you show it to a woman who is mostly our market, she goes, oh, right. And when she's done that, now we're in, right? And so that's my thought about marketing. It may be different in a different industry, but for this one, give me emotion every time.
Yeah, I think it's just a way for any industry. And one of the things you see big corporations do in their marketing is it becomes dehumanizing.
Yeah,
Some of their stuff is very feature driven, like you just talked about before, all the truck mount stuff, and they're all
yeah,
features, but nobody cares. If you have a toothbrush that does the same job, they're going to go with that,
yeah.
and that's just the reality of the world we're in. Of course, don't clean something with a toothbrush, somebody's carpet, but at the same time, they're going to go with whoever seems to be the best. Most friendly option to them, and they don't really care what kind of equipment you have. There are the analytical people and the technical people that go, do you have a truck mount, the stuff. I could tell you in 26, 27 years of doing this, I've been asked if I had a truck mount about 4 times.
Yeah,
For cleaning a house. I mean, for other things, restoration industry, it's a little bit different, but
yeah,
I think people react to the simplicity of it. When you make it more, it's more. Think about an advertising piece.
yeah,
A busy advertising piece doesn't sell.
yeah, that's right.
The day of long form copywriting, and I have a different opinion about that. You talk to some old school people, they say long copy outperforms it. It doesn't to me, because to me, when I see a sales letter, I look at the key information on the top and the header, and I go right to the bottom. I
Yeah,
don't look at the middle ground. I know if I keep reading the middle ground, they're going to try and build value and build stuff, but it doesn't really mean anything. Well, a postcard or, typically goes into that circular file, right there next to the desk or in the kitchen, whatever that happens to be, because now you're lumped into other areas. Now, there are exceptions to that. I found in small markets where a friend of mine, Scott Smith, is, postcards probably work because they're not getting enamored with them. But if
that's
you're
right.
here in Jersey, I get the mail, and it's one of the reasons I don't do postcards to general public, to my previous and past clients, 100%, because I've got a little bit of a recognition with them.
Yeah.
But to a majority past, it just gets caught up in the clutter. So less is more. I guess that's the whole term when it comes to my tiny view on marketing. What are some simple strategies? Let's say it's a person that's getting into the business, decides they want to get off the truck. They're going to go in. Obviously, they should go to strategies once it's back up and running and this pandemic is past us, because it will change their life. It changed mine. I talk about it, and I remember speaking to Steve about this, and Steve said, you're really great at you're really great at running somebody else's company profitably, but you've never started your own.
Yeah.
So being you've never started your own, you don't know how to start your own. When you come here, you're going to leave with a thing to do it. He goes, it's not going to be stuff you haven't heard because you've had the education behind you, but you've never compiled it to ownership of a business.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are some of the words of advice?
Well, when you're think about when you first start a business, for most of us in this industry, you have a lot of time, you don't have a lot of money, right? So that means you've got to go out to see people, right? You can't sit and wait. Now, you can do the free things like you're talking about, some of your blog posts and that's great, and that's going to take up part of your day, but what are you doing with the rest of the day? You need to generate some money pretty quickly. And I don't mean go out and clean apartments for $30 a piece. Right. That's the worst thing you can do, right? I mean, if you want to learn how to clean dirty carpet, go there and go restaurants. But other than that, I think you need to go out and see people. And where I'd go to see would be the churches, the synagogues, the places where you're going to get a lot of people. And if I'm going to go if I can just get 1 or 2 of those, then that's going to filter down to all their parishioners or their attendees. So I think you need, even if you're going out to do something at no charge, that's fine in the beginning. You got the time. You notice as people start to get a little bit more successful, they spend less time, I think, Chuck Yeadon used to call it belly to belly selling, right? And less time going out and seeing people and more time spending money on actual marketing, because now they've got the money. But I think when you stop getting in front of people, I think you really are missing out. I mean, there's nothing wrong with all those things about print mailing, but I still think you need to get out there to show people. And you can't, you remember back in the days, Rob, both of us remember that the wonderful yellow pages.
We
right?
just talked about
Oh
it.
my God. I mean, how much money did we waste on yellow pages, right?
I'm
I
embarrassed.
know, it's just kind of like, you have to ask John Braun too about that, about that. But we all thought that, when you did so well with this ad, the yellow pages guy would come by and next year and you say, this ad didn't seem to work as well. Well, you need to make it bigger.
Right.
Oh, okay. All right, so let's go to the full page. And next year they come back and go, I didn't pay for the ad. You need color, right? So basically they just kept selling you and you had these ads that would say something like on the headline, truck mounted carpet cleaning. I go, oh, now that draws me in as a consumer, right? I mean, what does that mean to them? So I think in those early days when you're not out there talking to people, you need to be reading the books that you and I read, kind of coming up with this and understanding what's the message, what's the media, and of course, starting with that target audience first before you start throwing money around. So, and I realize I kind of went around the circle here on that one, Rob, but I really feel strongly about that.
Absolutely. One advantage I feel that a person that goes into business or is new into it today is you have a lot more media out there versus the phone books. So
Yes.
back in those days, you did a lot of praying. You don't have to be religious to be
No.
praying for this.
Yeah.
You did a lot of praying that if you spent $4,000 a month on your Yellow Pages ads, that you were going to at least break even on your things and now have the customer maybe on the back end if they can remember who you were.
Yep.
It was rough. I remember even it was phasing out in 2005 when I opened my first business, and the Yellow Page rep made a ton of money. And I know the companies I managed, we would write checks for full page ads, and I don't think color was even available, and I couldn't fathom what that was, but I could tell you that was probably $10,000 a month in ads on with Stanley and stuff. So I didn't have that kind of war chest, but I definitely spent plenty onto it. So I think there's a lot more tools, as you mentioned, tools before, out there today with social media to build a presence online if you choose to do it. One of the things I do see is you want to be noticed, but you don't want to be noticed for being annoying. You don't want to be noticed for being something that's, stands out in a negative way or negative moment of truth in Steve's words.
Yeah.
It's crucial that when you're doing it, you're writing it simple, easy, and customer related. How would they write it? And if you're married and you're a guy, talk to your wife, talk to your girlfriend. You will probably get a much better perspective on it than yours because we're guys. We just don't think about things like that. And the hardest thing I ever did was try to say, okay, read books on how women think about things and watch resources on it. And I'm going to tell you guys, if you think you don't at all. So you should reach out to that other person, say, I'm going to do this. What do you think, hon? And see what it is. And vice versa. It's not always the worst idea the other way, but it's typically, like you just said, we have a lot of female customers in perspective. One of the things I wanted to separate too, and I talk about is sales and marketing, and I've had people literally try to tell me it's the same thing. And obviously they couldn't be further from truth. They are related, like a truck mount is related to water extraction. That's where it stops, just like that. Understanding that if you market better, the sale becomes inevitably easier. Not my words, Dan Kennedy's words. But it's true. If the marketing is done better, I think Joe Polish, a common friend of ours, same thing. If the marketing is done easier and correctly, the path to the sale becomes considerably easier by doing that. So understanding that, I think if you do your marketing and do it proficiently and correctly and strategize, keyword strategize what you want to do, put it down on paper and a plan and execute, I think you'd be farther ahead than the other way around. Therefore, making your phone ring by people that are prospectives. One of the things I'm writing a book, and we just discussed it before, is the power of reviews, and it's called Welcome to the Review Society. I'm in the editing portion of it right now, but it's geared all the way back to the power of reviews and the power of what other people say about you. And as I say in the book, you don't know these people. They don't know you, but somehow they spent the time to write a review about that, and you are taking credence to what they had to say. in the value you put out to them, whether that be good value or poor value.
Yes.
But they are writing it, and we are in the time we have been for many years. I learned it when I first moved to New York, not knowing where to go, what to do, that you needed to look at these things to find out. Well, now customers have come a full 180 from even 2013. They're buying and hiring you based on that decision, not just calling you for a job. Can you give me an estimate? They're already kind of pre-sold. I mean, they already can read the reviews. They're reasonably priced. I love reviews that say reasonably priced, because it doesn't really define anything. It could be their definition of a pricing structure. But the customer goes, I can trust him.
Yeah. When I moved back to Indianapolis, this is in the mid '80s, and I went back to work in corporate Bain Clean, all right, at that time. And at that time, this was the mid '80s, there was a group that started up mostly in Carmel, which is one of the richest subdivisions in the north side of Indianapolis. And they had a thing called Angie's List, right? Angie's List at that point in time was a monthly little magazine, very small magazine that came out, and you had to get in there as a company, you had to have 5 reviews from people, right? From customers. So of course we know that went on to become, it was actually at that point in time, it was called Unified Neighbors. And it went in, it was taken over and started Angie's List. And so of course, when it moved on to digital, which was Angie's, everybody loved it in the beginning because they did what they said. In other words, you couldn't get into that unless a customer reviewed you. And we all know what happened to Angie's List. It got terrible. But in those early days, if Unified Neighbors, you got a call from somebody because you were reviewed in Unified Neighbors, you were golden, all right? Price wasn't an issue. You had to pay to actually, a subscriber had to pay to get the Unified Neighbors book each month, like $15. Right. So it's kind of the same thing that you're talking about now. Reviews are reviews, whether they're word of mouth or they're the coolest digital that you've ever seen. If people aren't talking about you in a good way, your business is going down.
Yeah. And today it's a great equalizer. And that's what I wrote about Angie Hicks and her humble beginnings way back in Columbus before even coming out to that. And very simple, same thing. Columbus, something circular that went out. Angie Hicks built up an incredible reputation by just, hey, ask Angie. And Angie started that way and went from, to this giant iconic brand. Marketing now and these reviews and this word of mouth is probably, it takes time, obviously, to build up reputations with people. I to say in there, don't get, it's cute to have your cousin and friend write a quick review to get you going. But if Google ever gets you or any of these search engines get you, they can ban you. They can ban your posting or ban you for life. And I've seen it happen. You don't want to play with that. But if you, over time, put a system in place, review management software, I'm a big fan of. There's a whole bunch of great platforms out there today. Just had somebody on last week, Troy Howard from Sotellus, and, went into the power of capturing that and that information. That is better, in my opinion, than any photograph or blog that I can write. It's important to have those information. It's important to see those pictures, but I think at the end of the day, they're taking that other person. In fact, I could tell you there, because 69% of their buying decisions is based on what other people had to say, and people, again, they don't know.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. What do you think is, so we talked about some marketing that, people can start out with that they probably can help, some simple solutions. What is some advice? And again, we're not going to get into technical platforms of how this works, how that works. What is some advice you could just give? Let's go past the base guys now. Let's get into the area where the guys, maybe like me or up higher that are doing, consistent marketing, consistent things in a place. Keyword consistent. What were some suggestions you could do based on your experience? Based on the, oh, by the way, Bill is a ferocious reader. He's probably read more books than anybody listening to this right now. So he can give you a lot of information, not just from the cleaning and restoration side. He can give you information that he pulls from books, from Amazon and, Amazon's beginnings. And he's read it. And Marcus Buckingham, I brought him up the other day about,
Oh, he's great.
Yeah. That changed everything from, that's still my favorite book now, Discover Your Strengths, to this day. I read that book a long time ago.
His last one was the 9 marketing something, the 9 marketing errors. I thought that was his most recent one, which was excellent.
I didn't get a chance to read that, but he really, it comes from Gallup, and it's polls and it's opinions of people, not political opinions. It's real world opinions of people. But what would you say to that? I mean, you've seen the guys, as Chuck says, in the rowboats. I love the boat analogy. I even have it on my wall. The boat analogy between basically the little boat and then the yacht and then the super yacht, and the differences between the different businesses. They all think a little bit differently, obviously, when it comes to their marketing and their outlook onto it.
Yeah. Well, I'd have to say I go right back to marketing principles. Just like if we were taking a carpet class, we got cleaning principles, restoration principles, we got the marketing principles already. So it's too often people want to jump right into the tools. Maybe they keep asking you, is the Google the right place for me, or is this the right place for me? Have you defined who is your audience, right? If you don't know who the audience is, then you can't jump a step. It's kind of like making a pie with leaving out one of the ingredients. It's not going to work.
Their target market.
Target market, I think, we got to start there. Regardless of what you do, who wants your service? I think the IICRC, I forget how many, probably been 10 years ago now, they actually did a survey. I think it was about 1,000 people, consumers, and asked how many people had ever had their carpets professionally cleaned. It was only 39%, right? That means that 61% of this nation had never had a professional cleaner. Now, we know the huge amount of that is going to be the do-it-yourselfers. That's the big chunk. And then there's the ones that never clean. They're not our market anyway. So we have to say, all right, so if we're all fighting over the 39%, what are you going to do to get the 61%? What are the reasons for them not having it done? And half the time it's because they just think, well, they see that little rug doctor in the store. Well, I could do that myself. Why would I ever do that? Well, we know that normally the younger demographics are not going to have their carpets professionally cleaned. They're either not going to do it or they're going to rent a machine. So that's not our market. Now, as we get up there and we look at that group, especially you get up above 50, we got 76 million baby boomers. We know they're all over 60 now, just about. They're not ever going to rent a machine. If I'm really trying to say I've only got so much money and I got to really narrow it down to who's my niche, then I'm going to make sure that I go to the boomer woman really is the one that's going to do it. So once I've got that, now what is my message to that customer? And we know that for especially marketing to my age group, we don't want to see things that we can't do something because we're too old, right? You're insulting us now. That's why when you see the commercials for like Toyota or something, the young millennials on her computer talking about her mom and dad, she says, I don't think they ever get out. They don't call me. I don't see them on Facebook. And they show the picture of them taking their mountain bikes off the top of their Toyota, right? And the idea is that when I'm marketing to that person, I'm marketing and saying that you don't want to be doing this work, right? You want to be out playing golf. You want to be fishing. You want to be visiting the grandkids. Let us take care of this, that you don't have to worry about it. That's what we're doing. And then where do we go? Where's the media that we're going with? Are we going to go on Facebook? Well, yeah, we know the fastest growing people that are going into all types of media, digital, are going to be the older people over 55. My mom, who passed last year, but she actually had Netflix before I did. I was so embarrassed. Just thought it was, So picking out the media that's going to go after the people you're doing. And then they come to somebody like you and say, okay, here's my target audience. Here's my message. What tools do I use? Because, if you don't have somebody that you trust to help you, you know how many people are getting wasted on SEO expenses.
Right.
It's just like the yellow pages of our day. And then once we've got them, we know that, how do we retain that business? When you listen to Chuck and he talked about, marketing and that, he says, as your business grows, your percent of marketing dollars should be going down. Right. Because you could be giving the message to the people that are basically already your customers. You just got to continue the promise that you made to them. And a lot of that promise was about trust. So, that's that's where I'm going with that. Just the general idea, putting in that package and working on each step as we go through it.
You know, I'm just, as you were bringing up something, I'm a musician, been for a long time. And I've played with a variety of different bands over the years, everything from original music
Yep.
to classic rock to classic hard rock to more pop driven. Okay.
Yep.
All different types of bands, different following. Okay. So what I found, the current situation I'm with, we do a lot of everything from disco to some newer dance stuff, but it's all dance related, male, female fronted, 3 people in the background. Really good show, high energy, high entertaining show. Now, you would think that we would want to label our music to all the new stuff that's coming out there.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be, nothing would be further from the truth, because you go, well, you want to play in the new venues and stuff. No, what we want to play in front of is the people that actually spend the money at the venues when they're there. So the venues don't care, bars don't care, restaurants don't care that you put in 300 people if the 300 people don't drink, if 300 people don't eat food. The profit margins, actually, they eat the food, it's even lower because the profit margins aren't there. They're looking at the drinks. And now let's go beyond that. What kind of drinks are they having? Are they looking at the draft that's on special, or are they drinking the martinis? So one thing I noticed the other day, and I caught it because I recorded the show on my camera that's looking at me right now. And I'm looking at this and going, these people are not drinking beer. These people are drinking expensive drinks. They're loaded with this. They're ordering food, but the key is they're ordering expensive drinks, and those drinks ring the tally and bring it up. And the tips are, of course, are based usually on their transactions. So the bartenders are making more money. So our key market for us now going forward is Atlantic City, and out west it'd be Las Vegas when everything comes up and running, because we know the type of music we play in combined with the energy show, the show that we'd always talk about. I just talked about on my Sunday morning minutes yesterday. Is the most important thing, but you have to know the people you're marketing to. I'm not trying to market to 20 somethings that are looking for discount beer, nothing against them. But I've played in bands with that, and at the end of the night, I've had the club owner say my register was blank, and you're going, huh? But there was how many people here? How many of them drank? Okay. How many of them drank anything I made any money on? And a lot of them they might have brought their own liquor in on the down low, so to speak. They could all things people my age would never do. And if they do, they're going to do something like my wife does, where she brings Crystal Light stuff because she's a diabetic like I am. And she'll buy your vodka. She'll buy your straight vodka, whatever your cost is, but she's going to mix it with her own drink because she can't have something with sugar in it versus what somebody else is going to do. So I think, when you talked about before, you need to figure out what your audience is. Just like that. Figure out who your target market is. Who are the people that are going to buy your prospects, or going to be your prospects rather, who are interested in buying your service. You're not for everybody. My company's not for everybody. Every business owner I know has a certain uniqueness to them. Sure, we all clean rugs. You do carpets. We all do tile and grout. My build thing is reputation, and driven on the reputation that we've built online and offline. That's our big focus is making sure, the number one reason I wanted reviews was to get the feedback. The secondary reason was to have it as a marketing tool to help build the backbone and the framework of the business. Everybody needs to have that unique thing that's not unique about them, but is unique to them in essence about their marketing and how they're going to present it to their potential customers. I'm getting near almost 30 minutes, Bill. We could go on this thing for 2 hours, but I always try to keep it with exception to our buddy there. Is there any final words you can do? And also, please tell them about yourself. Bill is also a master textile cleaner, and he's also an instructor with the IICRC. He's been doing it for a long time. He is one of the 2 most beloved instructors. I'm not trying to hurt anybody else's feelings, but between you and Barry, there is no more. Everybody that's taken a class, I think, in this industry has taken a class from one or both of you, have always come back and went, "Wow, that was like the nice restaurant experience. Yes, I got the good food. Yes, I got this, but I got a great feeling when I left there." And those are things you can remember from now on. The same goes to strategies for success. I think anybody that's ever taken that class from any of you guys comes away going, "Wow, I still got the books. Books are right over here from all the classes I went to."
Well, I number one, I just want to say that being compared to Barry is like being compared to Tom Brady, right? So, I mean, he is the best. IICRC has chosen him as the best. I don't know how many years. So just being in the same ball club with Barry is great. The one thing I just want to finish on, and while it's not specifically marketing, I think it fits into the marketing. When you're talking about going into people's homes, and especially as this relates to the reviews, you know, you're talking about something unique. Probably the most unique thing that you can have is the people that you hire to go into people's homes. When you have a technician that is friendly and outgoing, he does not have to be the world's best technical technician, because most consumers don't know how good something is. If it looks better, they're happy. But how did you make that customer feel? And that's what you want to see in those reviews when they say, oh, we called this company, Rob came out. Rob, I will never use anybody else because Rob just made me feel so comfortable in my home. He wasn't in a rush or anything, and smiling, he talked to my dog, you know, whatever it's going to be. So I think when we're looking at marketing, we can get all the business in the world. But if you have somebody that goes out into the home that doesn't make that customer feel comfortable, especially in this time of COVID, you know, we've got to be so careful because people are so much more leery. I think we just got to think about that person that I have that represents my company. You know, it's like Nick Palel always says, you know, he says, Nick, how'd you be so successful? He said, well, I hired people that were more smarter than me, right? Nobody's more personable than Nick, but
No.
he always said, I just hire smart people and let them do their thing. So be careful about who you're sending into your home. Get your marketing working. And when the people are calling you, make sure that you're taking care of them with great people.
Agreed. I think that's the backbone of building great business. That's as much of a valuable stream of income as anything you can get. Having the right people, the right presentation, the right experience that they have. I'm very picky, and I've always been very picky about who I hired. And I've made some mistakes in the past, like everybody has, but I've gone the extra mile to make sure that they have the personality first and foremost, and the technical aspects secondary. I can teach anybody that. I can send them to your class. You know, there's so many resources where they're going to get a much better outsourcing from than I could ever give them in my lifetime. But you need to have the right people going in the door representing you. And you need to make sure you put a system in place to make sure that's followed and maintained, and that it should be the standard and the benchmark like people have with the Ritz-Carlton. That's the philosophy you're going to have. Ritz-Carlton hires people from all over the world to come in and work in their hotels and their establishment, yet they're always ranked the highest when it comes to the customer experience for the reasons Billy just explained to you. So, sir, how can somebody get a hold of you? If you have a question, I need to know what book they should read.
Well, my email, of course, is going to be Billy, Billy, @johndon.com. All right. My cell phone number, which everybody in the world has it anyway, because it's on every manual I've ever taught over the last 25 years, 317-201-7670. You can always find me on Facebook. I'm a big Facebook user, right? Just under Bill Yeadon, right? And I'm happy to talk to people. I mean, since the whole COVID, not being able to stand up in front of a group of people and talk to them has just been terrible. I'm not as depressed as Nick Palella. I think they don't let him out much. You know, he's just itching to get down to Charleston for the Experience Convention in April. So we'll both be down there.
That's
hopefully
awesome.
We'll get to see everybody there. So
absolutely, I'm hoping to make it myself if I could possibly pull it off.
Yep.
All right, Billy, thank you so much again for being part of the Service Excuses podcast. We definitely have to have you back on again, and I appreciate, sir.
Thank you very much for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
All right, sir. Have a good day.
You too now.